right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for the late start. We've had a number of technical difficulties here at Baptist Orthodontic Stadium, not the least of which has been a kickoff return for touchdown to start the game. So technical difficulties in the press and on field, but nevertheless, in spite of that, the Mustangs are up right now. We're a little over halfway through the first quarter. We don't have the exact time because the scoreboard is not functioning tonight. We do believe that we are about, probably, I would wager guess about 3 or 4 minutes remaining if for a quarter. Mustangs have just gotten the ball back on a punt, and they are leading 13-7. The Mustangs have scored twice. Once was a pick six for 80 yards, and that was courtesy of I know in the NFL you look for the referee to raise the ball above his head, and that is not what happened here. I'm not sure what that was. Might have been some debris or perhaps something on the field that they needed to take care of.
Would be the second of the game.
Pollard comes up with his second major sack of the game for the Mustangs, and that will push the ball all the way back to the 27-yard line. Second and 19 coming up for Lake Nona.
And that's a second-yard loss. And like you said, Mark, this has been a very scatterbrained game. It was 7-7 at one point with neither offense scoring and only 3 plays being run. And now it just seems to be continuing.
That takes us to the end of the first quarter. A 13-7 lead for the Mustangs, and the Lions have the ball in their territory. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again,
we would like to let you know that the restrooms in Building 9 are currently unavailable, but we have opened the restrooms in Building 10. Also, for those of you
who have friends and family back at home who are looking to watch tonight's game live, we had some technical difficulties. 7.
If you win the district championship, you go to the play. Of course, we have the new point system, and I will explain a little bit later, but let's just say you got 8 teams that make the playoff in each of the 4 regions across the state. And all 4 of those district champions get an automatic berth, as well as the home field, play a game at home field. However, Wekiva now has the ball for them.
15-yard donation to the Mustang cause. First down, Wekiva.
Opportunity to really gain control of this game. Lake Nona came out, as Mark said, and got an returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and that definitely was a Muhammad Ali hammer blow there to the stomach. But now Wekiva looks like they're settling in as they. Now we have a loss of 1 yard there. That's the first negative play that Wekiva's had all game. And while we did have the long touchdown pass, which Wekiva had actually tied the game, it looks like Wekiva is now going to go exclusively to the running game. And of course, as soon as I say that, we get a pass. When the season started, we would have saw Sean Robles come in. Of course, Brandon Williams is pretty much taking over that starting position, not just when it's a running play.
Field goal attempt is blocked.
Of multiplying. Lake Nona takes over the ball at their own 17-yard line, and we'll see what kind of pass they dial up this time. They're going a little razzle-dazzle here as they're actually throwing it behind the line of scrimmage. That will actually be considered a handoff.
Number 7 Anthony Manning takes the handoff, and it'll be a loss of 9 yards on the play all the way back to the 9-yard line. About 8 minutes are remaining in the first half. 8 minutes to go in the first half.
And, of course, Coach Beddison was looking forward to tonight's game as far as it being a challenge to contain a high-powered passing game like Nona. And so far, Wekiva's defense has risen to the challenge, despite the score. And once again, we have another loss. That's twice Lake Nona has tried to get the ball to the receiver. Actually, they did get the ball to the receiver behind the line of scrimmage and then let him work his magic. And immediately, as soon as the ball was caught, there was a host of defenders.
3rd and 23 coming up for the Lions.
And now we're going to have a pass from the end zone.
That pass falls incomplete, and the Lions will once again have to bring up kicking unit with 4th and 23 coming up.
So the line of scrimmage is the 4-yard lines, which means Lake Nona actually lost 13 yards on those last 3 plays. This is a golden opportunity for Wekiva, though they should get the ball on Lake Nona's side of the field. Again, the score is right now 13 to 7. Another touchdown would make it a two-score lead as we head into the second half, and that would really force Lake Nona to perhaps get out of their comfort zone. Again, they
flag on the play. Offsides called against the Mustangs. 5-yard penalty and a re-kick. Jarvis Ware is going to get it at midfield. He has to step back on the momentum, gets back across midfield, and that's about all he's going to get. He's lucky to have kept the ball in that situation because he did not have a lot of help from his Mustang colleagues, but nevertheless, the Mustangs will take over on the Jarvis Ware return at the Lion 48-yard line, so the Mustangs will start with field position in Lake Nona territory, and we have reached the midpoint of the second quarter. Just about 6 minutes remaining in the second quarter, and so we'll pause for an official timeout.
So as we take this timeout, I was going to say that right now, Wekiva has a golden opportunity to take control of this game, not only on the scoreboard, but working hand in hand. Lake Nona will probably have to come out of their comfort zone. Now, Lake Nona is usually the team that causes the opponent to get out of the comfort zone because they pass the ball so often. However, this is a passing attack which is designed to be most effective when they have the lead, not being behind, because, of course, although formally or officially, if you will, it is considered a pass, it's pretty much a long handoff. And we just saw that in the last series as 2 of the 3 passes were actually thrown behind the line of scrimmage.
Brandon Williams completes to Javon Curtis on the opening play of the Mustang drive. That's good for a gain of 4 yards. It brings up 2nd and 6. Make it 2nd and 5 for the Mustangs from the Lion 43-yard line.
Now, Wekiva probably is going to be looking to kill a lot of the clock. They don't want to give that ball back to Lake Nona. Again, although their passes pretty much function as a handoff, they do have that capability of quick strikes.
Pass is once again complete to Javon Curtis in back-to-back plays, and this one is good for a Mustang first down. Ball is spotted at the 35-yard line of Lion territory. And as we get late in the season, Williams certainly settling into his role as a passing quarterback in addition to a rushing quarterback, which is most of what we saw in the first half of the season. This is going to be a handoff. Not sure who took that one, but it was a 3-yard carry. 3-yard things, and it'll bring up 2nd and 7.
Right now, as Wekiva is moving down the field, we're seeing a nice blend, a nice mix of run and the pass.
That one will go to number 21, or 27, excuse me, John DeJost. And that'll bring up 3rd and 4 for the Mustangs. The ball is spotted at the 29-yard line of Lion territory.
So now, let's see what Coach Bedison, or Coach Hurd, has up his sleeve here on 3rd down.
And it looks like the answer is going to be a run up the middle. I think that might have been Bridges.
Yeah, for those of you at home, well, I guess if you're at the game too, Bridges is wearing number 3 tonight. I know
it's normally Renardo Green's number.
Last week he was wearing number 4, but he's wearing number 3 tonight. So we are not incorrect.
The gain is just short of 1st down yards. Mustangs will line up to go for the 4th down conversion with 4th and 1. That's a handoff to Bridges. He's got it and then some. Rafael Bridges on the carry for the Mustangs. He needed 1 yard. He got about 4, and it's good for a Mustang. 1st down. The official spot is going to come in right at the 20-yard line.
So not only did he get it, as you mentioned, Mark, but it's a healthy 6-yard gain there. And again, there wasn't anything fancy about that. That was lower the shoulder and follow your 2 tackles at center.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be glamorous. It just has to get the job done, and that's just what the Mustangs have done here, and they are now in the red zone. Also, keeping that clock running, as you mentioned, trying to make sure that if and when the Lions do get the ball back, that they have minimal time remaining. And oh my goodness, it is number 11, Javon Curtis, catches the ball, dances around the Lions secondary, and he is into the end zone for a 20-yard Mustang touchdown.
And again, nothing fancy there. It wasn't quite as simple as the last play, which was run up the middle, but that was a simple draw there behind the guards. Follow your guards to the hash mark and then turn it upfield, and the blocking up front blew open a big hole for Curtis to turn upfield.
I'd say he probably picked up 10 out of those 20 yards on the ground. Mustangs will request a timeout as they prepare for the extra point. And here's an interesting thought, and especially with the Mustangs taking a timeout here. Are they thinking about going for 2, try to make up for that muffed extra point earlier in the game?
Yeah, and of course, because we had technical problems, it came onto the air late. I did want to talk about last week's game against Apopka, which was the biggest victory, at least in a tangible sense, because it clinched the district championship for Mustangs. But in that game, we had the same situation where Oscar Salazar missed an extra point, and so Wekiva went for the 2-point conversion when they scored their only touchdown on offense. Obviously, with that score being 22-14, they did not convert, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bedison goes for the 2-point conversion, and I believe that's what they're doing, as I don't see number 44 Salazar out there. And so now we got the 1-back set on the 2-point conversion, and Bridges runs out to the right, and he actually throws the pass. It was incomplete.
The pass is incomplete, which makes the try no good. Penalty is an illegal shift called against the Mustangs. That will, of course, be declined, and so the try is no good. That makes it now a 19-7 lead. Late in the second quarter, we're working on getting the official time, but should be roughly 3 minutes left in the half.
Yeah, and in that case, basically,
3 minutes, 19 seconds remaining in the first half. 3:19 on the clock.
In that case, Wekiva basically outsmarted itself there, tried to get a little too fancy and got penalized for doing something they usually don't. And in that case, I think they would have just been better off just running the ball up the middle. They moved the ball about 60 yards on 5 plays, or 6 plays, 5 were runs. Why not continue to go with what's working?
After the kickoff, the Lions will take over on their own side of the field at the 33-yard line with 1st and 10. Again, 3:19 remaining in the second quarter.
And so once again, Wekiva's facing that no huddle, pass offense. And this is a very critical play in the game. Wekiva has just really taken control of that 2-score lead. But if they can get out of the half, only like Nona, they should feel pretty good because they would not only have a 2-touchdown lead, but they would be receiving the kickoff to start the second half.
Aracena on the carry for a gain of 2 yards. That brings up 2nd and 8 for the Lions from their own 35. So Aracena seems to pretty much be the only reliable running back that the Lions really have at their disposal. That's where most of the rushing yardage we've seen so far tonight has come from. Michael Kern completes to Anthony Quealy for a gain of 5 yards, a gain of 3 yards on the previous 2. That puts the ball at the 37-yard line. It brings up 3rd and 5.
Maintaining that 2-touchdown lead and then look forward to the second half receiving the ball.
Lions spend the timeout to stop the clock. Again, just over 2 minutes remaining in the half. 3rd and 5 coming up from their own 38-yard line.
And again, we really haven't had much time to talk about it between getting a late start as well as Lake Nona no huddling. But Lake Nona likes to run.
1 minute 53 remaining, 2nd and 10. No gain on that previous play. Going to go long this time. Nobody but Mustangs in the neighborhood of that one. Lucky it wasn't intercepted, but the pass intended for Anthony Quealy falls incomplete, and it brings up 3rd and 10.
Now allowed to get a good clearance.
Michael Curran put into.
So another first down by Lake Nona. And Lake Nona has done a very good job here in this last drive, despite having a couple of setbacks.
1 minute 15 seconds remaining in the game at the half.
Lake Nona has come back every time they've had a loss and gained significant yardage. And now we have another run there, which will kind of pretty much stop.
1 yard gain on the play for the Lions. 2nd and 9 coming up. The pass is complete to number 4, Anthony Quealy in the end zone, and that is good for a Lions touchdown. 46 seconds remaining in the half. 17-yard completion to Quealy.
Yeah, and unfortunately, perhaps I spoke too soon there. If you're a Wekiva fan, that was not a pretty play from the Wekiva perspective. Number 4, Anthony Quealy was all alone there, about 2 yards inside the end zone. Somebody blew their coverage, whether it be he got faked out or he just didn't cover Quealy to begin with. Whatever the reason, Wekiva just let it golden opportunity to take control of this game heading into the second half. Go by the scoreboard.
Extra point is good, and so again with 46 seconds remaining in the half, that makes it a 19-14 lead for Wekiva. And 46 seconds left in the quarter, and the Mustang lead cut to 19-14.
The Lions have been listening to our broadcast because they're taking a page out of Wekiva's book there. Even if they don't score, you know, they've shifted the momentum, the flow of the game, the school of philosophy, as far as if the opponent doesn't have the ball, they can't score. It looked like Wekiva was the one that was in position to execute the school of thought. And as we've mentioned this whole first half, Lake Nona passes the ball. And when they get tired, they pass it some more. They have 23 passes.
29 seconds remaining in the half. 29 seconds. 2nd and 10 from the Mustang 49-yard line.
23 passes have been thrown by Michael Kern, and we still got enough time to throw up a couple more here and reach the 25 pass mark. Oh, we got a penalty on the pass play.
But there is a flag in the secondary. Pass interference called against the Mustang defense. It's a 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. First down. Well, and you know, Neil, I was a couple of drives ago with 21 seconds remaining on the clock. A couple of drives ago, I was this close to letting it come out of my mouth. Well, at least the Mustangs will go into the locker room with a lead.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, you know, everybody up here was thinking the same thing, so.
Goal line, 1st and goal Mustangs. And it's going to be a matter of how much time is left on the clock.
Yeah. The pass return, or the interception return, went for 68 yards. And again, there's an example of this pass-oriented, constantly passing offense. It's high risk, high reward. And Shepard just jumped right in front of that ball. He read the play from the beginning, and there was nothing but green field in front of him because, again, the pass works as a long handoff.
4 seconds remaining on the clock after the Tyler Shepard 68-yard interception and return. Credit to Arion Lowe, who put pressure onto Michael Kern and hurried that pass. And so with 4 seconds left on the clock, the Mustangs will spend a timeout. It is 1st and goal from the 2-yard line.
So with 4 seconds left here, Wekiva is going to go for the touchdown. Of course, you only have one play here, so you're taking a risk. However, I believe Coach Hurd, Coach Bedison and Coach Hurd, the offensive coordinator, probably think at this point Wekiva's run the ball very efficiently, a lot of power on the last drive. They moved the ball about 60 yards with 50 of it coming on 5 different rushes. So again, this helter-skelter feel of the game continues there as Wekiva answers Lake Nona's big play with a 68-yard interception return. And now they have the chance to build a lead to 2 touchdowns going into the locker room at halftime. Got a direct snap to
Brandon Williams over the top of the Lions defensive line, and he is into the end zone for a Mustang touchdown.
And again, nothing fancy about that play. It was a direct snap to Williams. Of course, Williams is the quarterback, but what I mean is he was lined up for a run. There was absolutely no design to pass that ball, and he ran forward. His offensive line got low, pushed the defensive line down, and Brandon jumped right over him. A la Walter Payton back in the day there.
Oscar Salazar's extra point is good. So the Mustangs add 7 to their lead, and that dive into the end zone here in Week 11 as we prepare for our halftime shows.
And so, Mark, as we go into halftime, it certainly has been a game of drama, not exactly the normal drama, as the offenses have moved off somewhat. There's really been a big play from the defenses and special teams that have carried the bulk of the drama. Both teams have come up with those big plays numerous times after when they needed to answer another team. And when we come back, I will have the stats here. But as I said, during Lake Mills' last possession, they have over 20 passes already, while Wekiva's been much more balanced, about 10 passes and 10 rushes.
And now, under the field direction of Gabriel Borjas, with assistant drum major 17 production, Abbey Road, music of the Beatles. They'll open with Eleanor Rigby, followed by Penny Lane, and
Night to direct them to WekivaMustangs.com, and they can watch live right now. You can also go back later and see a replay by going to the football page and then clicking the video button next to tonight's game on the schedule. And now, please welcome to the field the pride of Wekiva. Tonight's show, Do You Believe in Magic, will include selections from Harry Potter and The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Drum majors, is your band ready? Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Wekiva, your Mustang Marching Band. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, remind you, if you are not already doing so, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Twitter. We are at Wekiva Sports on both of those services. You'll get live, real-time updates from many of our home athletic events, as well as news and information about our athletes and alumni. When is NBA? We also invite you tomorrow at 3 o'clock at Apopka to come out and support the Mustang Marching Band. Again, that's tomorrow. It's all day long at Apopka, but the Mustangs will be performing at 3 p.m. We would welcome you to come out and support them as they compete. You'll see the same show that you just saw here, and it will be adjudicated in a district-wide performance assessment. Again, that's tomorrow at 3 p.m. at Apopka. As we were mentioning before, at Wekiva Sports is your source for all of your real-time updates, as well as one of the updates you're going to need pretty soon here is who we are playing next week. We know that we are playing a home game here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. For the first time in school history, the Mustangs will be hosting a playoff game because they are the District 8A4 champions. And nothing about tonight's game is going to change that, but what tonight's game will change is the particular seed that Wekiva gets and the opponent that we will play. The new FHSAA point system is significantly more complicated than the old system, but arguably results in a more fair process. But what it means is that until the season is over with, we don't actually know what the playoff picture will look like. We know that Wekiva will host a game. We know that they will have a top 4 seed. But what happens here tonight will determine which of those 4 seeds the Mustangs actually get. And it is mathematically possible at this point for them to get either number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4. And then what happens with our other regional rivals will determine who gets seeds number 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that will determine who we play against next week. But regardless, it will be at 7:30, and it will be here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. It will be an $8 admission charge that is set by the Florida High School Athletic Association, so please be prepared for that. And also please be aware that only FHSAA State Series passes will be honored for those of you who are attending here at Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium. Again, that's coming up next Friday night at 7:30 as the Mustangs host someone from Region 1. And it could be Apopka. There is a very real chance, if not next week, then at some point in the regional tournament that we could see a rematch of last week's historic victory over the Blue Darters. Again, that's coming up next Friday at 7:30. Also a reminder once again that today's game is being webcast live. So you can go to WekivaMustangs.com and you can hear the live commentary from myself as well as Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief, who joins me for each of these live broadcasts. And again, that is streaming right now at WekivaMustangs.com. You can also go back starting tomorrow for a replay. We got that going about halfway through the first quarter. We finally worked out all the bugs, and it is streaming now. So make sure your friends and family who are at home are aware that they can go to WekivaMustangs.com on a mobile device or on their full-size computer and watch tonight's game live. The toss and deferred, so they will get the opening possession of the second half. Well, Neil, this really shouldn't even be coming as a surprise anymore.
Yeah, that's the third onside kick, correct, Mark?
Yes, that is the third, and I'm waiting to see an official signal, but I'm thinking it might be a successful one.
Well, you know, again, as we've been preaching all night, and yes, basically we're beating the passing game again.
And we got a loose ball. Lions are going to come up with it. So one way or the other, the Lions having a lot more offensive possessions than they ordinarily would be entitled to.
Yeah, this has been a sloppy game. Wekiva's had stretches of really good, solid, efficient play, but there's been far more sloppiness. Again, in football, it only takes one big play, like we just saw, that fumble, and that basically can equal 10 good, solid plays. And again, I know Coach Bedison cannot be happy with these mistakes that they're playing. They came from Apopka, and again, they made about a handful of mistakes, but nothing like they are tonight. And you don't want to be going into the playoffs committing fumbles and not being ready for onside kickoffs. And there's also been a couple of bad penalties, face mask and pass interference. And once again, Wekiva had a golden opportunity on that 8-yard carry to actually get some rhythm and take control of the game.
Pass completes to Anthony Quilly, followed by a run by Aracena. The pass was good for 8 yards. The run will be good for no gain, and it brings up 3rd and 2.
Quigley caught it. It's 4.
Pass is once again complete to Anthony Quilly, and he is across the 30-yard line for a Lion first down. Ball spotted at the 29, 1st and 10 Lions. The pass is intercepted. There was an early flag on the play, though, so we'll have to see what the official signal is. Kavion Holmes had the pick for the Mustangs deep in the secondary. Holding is called against the Mustang defense, so that will nullify the interception. And it is also a 10-yard penalty and a first down for the Lions. So the Mustangs catch a tough break there. Nine minutes, 56 seconds remaining in the third quarter. And a completely uncovered Lion, number 12. That is Darian Betts on the reception, tackled by Holmes, but not before getting down to about the 8-yard line for a 1st and goal, and there is a late flag on the play.
And again, the sloppiness is continuing. That last pass.
Face mask is called against the Mustangs. That'll add half the distance to the goal to the end of the play, and it'll be 1st and goal from the 4-yard line. Michael Kern is put under pressure, but he gets the pass off to Aracena, normally known as a running back. He will function as a receiver on this play, and he has a 4-yard touchdown completion.
So again, that was exactly what we talked about, the sloppiness. There was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 mistakes made by Wekiva there, including a face mask penalty.
I don't think any play is going to beat them all.
Extra point is good, and so with 9 minutes, 28 seconds remaining in the third quarter, the Lions will cut the Mustang lead to 26-21. Again, 26-21, the Mustangs lead with 9 minutes, 28 seconds remaining in the third quarter.
So that drive began off looking very good from the Wekiva perspective, as the rush by Aracena went for no yards, but then Lake Nona took the ball and basically rammed it down Wekiva's throat, doing what they do best. Like they were caught off guard, and they really were confused on all those passes. And again, Lake Nona didn't do anything fancy. They went back to what they usually do, the long pass, which functions as a long handoff, getting the ball along the line of scrimmage to the receivers in the open territory along the hash marks.
So again, like we started to say, 9 minutes, 28 seconds to go here in the third quarter. Mustangs, a lot of good things happening for Wekiva, but also a lot of bad. Just as we said at the very beginning of the game, here's the onside kick again, and this one is going to get stopped before it goes 10 yards. The Lions will attempt yet another onside kick. This one did not go far enough before it was touched by Lake Nona. That will be an illegal procedure penalty. So this is the first time.
We've never seen an onside kickoff every time there's a kickoff. They obviously do have a kicker, so I'm not sure why they keep trying the onside kickoff. And again, we're about, 5 minutes into the third quarter here, maybe 6 minutes. And again, the helter-skelter nature or feel of this game is continuing.
Bethel Bridges opens up the drive for the Mustangs, picks up 8 yards into Lion territory at the 41-yard line, 2nd and 2.
And that was exactly what Wekiva needed there after really looking bad on that last series and giving up an easy touchdown. They needed some strength, some power, and of course the issue there, which Bridges did along with the offensive line on that rush.
Incomplete after being batted away by the Lions secondary, and it'll bring up 2nd and 10 for the Mustangs. And now off of the stadium, Mike, let me explain a little bit more about that. So, yeah, the Lion defense got in there. I think that was might have been number 24, might have been Jasper that got in there, knocked the ball away, and then it became a toss-up. Curtis took a hard hit from the secondary, but fortunately he was able to cause enough confusion that nobody came up with the ball. And what could have been a disaster for the Mustangs instead just turns into an incomplete pass.
Yeah, we
Edgerton on the carry for 1.
People touched it, but a hand touched it at 6 different times. And of course, as you probably just heard there, Edgerton now runs for a yard, setting up 3rd and 9.
Pass is nearly picked off.
Number 7,
Anthony Manning on the coverage there for the Lions. 4th and 9 coming up for Wekiva. So in 2 out of 3 plays in a row there, reflecting a little bit of poor judgment from Brandon Williams, who threw the ball closer to the Lions than he did to the Mustangs on both of those, and that was an easy pick.
Yeah, Wekiva once again, well, maybe not once again, they dodged the bullet, and maybe the dodging the bullet isn't once again, because that's the first time they've actually done that. But once again, Wekiva just made a real bad decision there, and quite frankly...
To the Lions, intended for Mustangs number 14, Terrence Moore. Moore actually had a pretty good look at it, although it was a kind of wild... low probability pass. I guess the Mustangs were figuring, well, if it gets intercepted, we're still no worse off than we were with the over on downs. So there was a chance they were willing to take. And like I said, Moore actually got a not half bad look at it there, but he had 2 guys on him and just wasn't able to land with it, getting stripped on his way down. So the pass falls incomplete. Ball goes over on downs to the Lions. Although, honestly, not much worse than it would have been with a punt.
No, and again, Wekiva didn't really hurt itself in that situation. But on 4th down, you would hope, you'd want to come up with a better play. That was basically a jump ball there, hoping that your receiver can come down with it.
Flag on the play. prior to the snap. False start called against the Lions. It's a 5-yard penalty and a replay of first down. So that'll put the ball at, looks like, the 33-yard line. 1st and 15 is coming up for Lake Nona as they once again find themselves on offense.
Yeah, and again, going back to the 4th down play, granted, that's not going to show up statistically, but there's another mistake that Wekiva made, because you really don't want to, you want to come up with a better play.
The pass is complete to Anthony Quealy. Tackled by Jarvis Ware, but there is a flag just behind the defensive line. 7 minutes, 2 seconds are remaining in the period, and completion for Anthony Quealy. 1st and 10 from the 21-yard line.
And again, now Wekiva's doing something they haven't done all year, and that's the defense is standing around looking at each other. You know, obviously the defense came into the season expected to carry the team until the offense could find its footing. However, this defense is really getting taken behind the woodshed.
What started to happen there was that Kern was put under pressure, got flushed out of the pocket by Norrell Pollard, had to spike the ball into the ground, and then a flag comes out at the end of the play with 6 minutes, 19 seconds remaining in the period.
Again, bad decisions. Again, just Wekiva looks very, very rattled tonight.
Personal foul is called against the Mustang defense. That'll be half the distance to the goal. It puts the ball at the 11-yard line, 1st and 10. And we've reached the midpoint of the 3rd period, and so we'll pause for an official timeout. Timeout.
Yeah, again, just a bad decision there on Wekiva. And I know Bedison is looking, he's probably already had a few words with the player that penalty was on. You know, what was a very off and on, very sporadic, inconsistent performance by Wekiva during the first half has just been gone to the negative. They've yet to really put together any number of plays that they really look good. Again, the end result is
whomever they play in the first round of the playoffs. So they will have a lot to talk about in the locker room after today's game. A lot of just mental miscues from the onside kicks to the penalties, the interceptions and near interceptions that have occurred. We've had 2 fumbles for loss now. As a matter of fact, it's actually somewhat miraculous that it's only a 1-score game. I mean, this could be much worse. The pass is batted down, nearly picked off in the end zone by the Mustangs' Brandon Hill. Instead, it falls incomplete, and it brings up 2nd and 10 from the 11-yard line. Flag on the play. Defensive holding is called against the Mustangs. That's half the distance to the goal and an automatic first down, and now 1st and goal.
And there's another mistake which falls under the mental, just lapses of mental awareness. And so now Lake Nona lines up again. They go to the offset formation with 1 running back. He's to the right of Kern.
Pass falls incomplete, 2nd and 5. Correction, the previous play was not an automatic first down. It was just a replay of first down. So it is now 2nd and 5. Still, the 2-yard line is the line to gain.
You got 7 down here with you on there.
Yeah, and again, Lake Nona, although they do like to pass a lot, and like we said, they passed 21 times in the first half, which is unusual, and that can throw a team off, just simply the fact they're not used to so many passes. Lake Nona is not doing anything fancy as far as the passes they're running.
Michael Kern this time is way over the head of his intended receiver. Never had a chance at that one. The pass falls incomplete, and it brings up 3rd and 5 for Lake Nona. So the Mustangs might manage to get out of this drive with a field goal if they can make one more stop here. Mustang defense, most of the time, with a couple of notable exceptions tonight, is ultimately Wekiva's strength, and they're certainly going to be relying them.
However, that was the first time, that last play on this drive, that Wekiva's defense did not look confused.
The pass is broken up by Jarvis Hanks, which would create a 4th and 5 situation, but there is a late flag on the play. It looked like a clean play from here. I would be surprised about a pass interference call, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. And that's just what it is. Defensive pass interference is called against the Mustangs. That'll move the ball half the distance to the goal. 5 minutes, 5 seconds remaining in the third period. The score, 26-21, the Mustangs leading. 3rd and 2 are coming up for the Lions. So they'll get another down out of this, but the Mustangs are thanking their lucky stars that in high school you don't get an automatic first down on a pass interference call. 4th down conversion here.
But remember, Mark, we are still in the third quarter. If it's the end of the game, obviously you go for the touchdown. But
apparently they're having a hard time deciding, too. They're suffering through the same conundrum, and the Lake Nona Lions will call a timeout.
So Wekiva's defense, although at least the last couple of plays, they look like they might be finding some semblance of a rhythm and identity again, like we've seen the same identity and rhythm we have seen throughout the season. You know, again, like I said, this second half, and granted we've only played half a quarter, this defense has just looked really confused. You know, I followed them, of course, all year, and I've never, in this particular drive, there's been several plays where they just were looking at each other with the, you know, what just happened, who was supposed to cover that guy look. And they've never done that the whole season. It's always been the offenses they face which has had that look.
So the Mustangs, whether they get the win or not tonight, will at least walk away with some valuable experience. As the old adage goes, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. And whether they get a win or not, this is not what they wanted. But it will be good experience going into the playoffs. Now with Apopka and Lake Nona, two strong programs with two very different styles that the Mustangs have had to face on back-to-back weeks to end the season here. And whether it's successful or not, certainly valuable experience for the Mustangs to take with them. High pass is in and out of the hands of the intended receiver and falls incomplete, and so the Mustangs will get out of this possession with no points put on the board, but they will also start with a 96-yard field ahead of them. 1st and 10 as the ball is turned over on downs to Wekiva.
And Jarvis Ware came up with the play there. That was basically a jump ball about halfway between the front of the end zone and the end of the end zone on the left side, and Jarvis just simply outjumped the receiver there. And that does at least give Wekiva some feeling of being able to regain some semblance of that domination on defense that they have shown all season, you know, which of course translates to carrying the team to a couple of victories.
He's stopping. You gotta put something.
Mustangs flirting with the goal line here in a way that they do not want to be doing. Berthel Bridges on the carry for Wekiva. No gain on the play. 2nd and 10 coming up from the Mustangs' own 2-yard line.
And of course, Wekiva has to be very careful here this deep in the end zone. I don't think I'm really saying anything that shouldn't already be obvious and common sense. But in particular, a game like tonight where they have just made so many mistakes, I think Bedison and the rest of the coaching staff are probably, you know, going out of the way to let them know about being careful. And speaking of which,
Pass is picked off by Lions number 7, Anthony Manning. And Lake Nona will once again take over with excellent field position. I don't think that's his first pick either, is it? 4 minutes, 15 seconds remaining in the third period. That's not his first interception tonight, is it?
Give me a minute. Actually, I believe it is Williams' first interception tonight.
No, not Williams. I'm talking about Anthony Manning.
Oh, yes, the defensive back. Well, it is Williams' first interception. However, it's about the 12th different bad decision he's made. He overthrew his intended receiver there, and quite frankly, I'm not sure why he was throwing it into double coverage.
Yeah, you're right. It is the first actual interception, but I believe that Manning has been involved in several near interceptions so far tonight. So they'll start at their own, at the Wekiva 26-yard line.
And we got an incomplete passer from Kern. To be honest, that was no one was near that pass completion, and that's one of the few times in the second half that Kern's actually made a bad decision, and Wekiva's defense looked, again, like the dominating force that's supposed to be.
Pass falls incomplete, 2nd and 10 coming up for the Lions. Darian Betts makes the play, had a clean line to the end zone, but he's wrapped up by Kavion Holmes, who saves the touchdown for the Mustangs. Ball is at the 12-yard line, 1st and 10, Lions.
Yeah, again, defense, the secondary was confused. The receiver had plenty of room to operate in there, as well as Kern, lots of room to throw the ball in.
Complete pass again, and it is a touchdown. Darian Betts extends over the goal line to pick up the extra yardage, and it is good for a Lion touchdown. 3 minutes, 40 seconds remaining in the third quarter. 3 minutes, 40 seconds.
Who caught that?
And that will give the Lions the lead, 27-26, pending the extra point. The extra point is good, and that makes it a 28-26 game. Lions take the lead by 2.
So in addition to all the mistakes that we've been listing here, if you recall, Wekiva missed a PAT, so then on their next touchdown, they attempted a 2-point conversion, which failed, and now we're looking at a 2-point deficit. So this game now, for the first time, Wekiva is trailing. And again, Lake Nona likes to throw a lot of passes, which is unusual. But the passes themselves, there's nothing fancy about that. That again, and there was nobody from the secondary within about 6 yards. By the time the secondary caught up to Betts, he was already about 3 yards from the end zone and had momentum, the speed to outrun the defense into the end zone.
And in just a shock move, we finally have a normal kickoff from Lake Nona.
So, well, maybe their formula, their thought process is they only try the traditional kickoff when they're ahead.
Right, or perhaps only after the onside doesn't work for the first time. Well, so, there we now have, but still not terrible field position. It was a little bit of a short kickoff, so 28-yard line is where Wekiva starts. 1st and 10 Mustangs from their own 28-yard line.
So I guess the good news is, despite how bad Wekiva's played, and again, it goes back to the mistakes, in particular mental mistakes, they're only down by 2 points.
Williams fakes the outside corner, gets all the way to midfield, and that is a 22-yard run for Williams.
And that must feel really good there to the Wekiva sideline. That's really the first play they've had this period, this quarter, where they started to look like an offense that could move the ball. They look like the team we saw last week.
Yeah, so much of what we've seen, at least in the second half, has been Wekiva struggling to survive. Now we're actually seeing that program that presents a legitimate threat, even to other strong programs. Mustangs have a screen pass there that is complete. And that pass is going to be completed to Terrence Moore for a 3-yard gain. 2nd and 7 coming up in Lion territory at the 47. Another faked handoff to Bridges here, and Brandon Williams will hold on to it as he goes up the middle. That's good for a gain of 2 more yards. 3rd and 5 coming up for Wekiva.
So another critical play facing the Wekiva offense now. Obviously they need a first down, but you can't really give the ball back to Lake Nona. They have all the momentum right now. As if we said, it's not just simply they're making great passes. Wekiva's playing well, and Lake Nona's just making great passes. Wekiva just looks confused and out of sorts, and they really need some time. The defense, in particular the secondary, to catch their breath, to kind of get the cobwebs out of their brains.
So Williams takes a direct snap, finds a lane, gets a good block, and he's down at the 25 and still on his feet. Pushed backwards, and Brandon Williams, who probably ran closer to 25 or 30 yards on that play, will actually get forward credit down to what looks like the 27-yard line. We'll pause for an injury timeout here.
Okay, and that would be an 18-yard gain.
28-yard gain for Williams there.
Excuse me, yes, 28. Had a brain cramp there.
And Williams picked up some great blocks. Unfortunately for the Lions, one of their players was on the receiving end of one of those great blocks. And he is slow to get up, and the athletic training team is out there tending to him. That's at about the 42-yard line where this is happening. That's number 22, Damian Savage, shaken up on the play. He is able to make his way off with the assistance of the Lions athletic training team. It was a 28-yard run for Brandon Williams, though, and the Mustangs have first down inside Lion territory at the 27-yard line.
It's 18. It's 18.
Bridges finds a lane deep into the 10, the 5, and finally topples over the Lion defense. Berthel Bridges picks up big first down for Wekiva deep inside the red zone. The stop finally made by Anthony Manning, who upends him, but not. Bridges once again on the carry for the Mustangs. He picks up a gain of 2, perhaps 3 yards. 2nd and goal coming up for Wekiva.
And now you're seeing Wekiva go to its bread and butter on offense, the power rushing. They're also probably trying to send a message. Touchdown with 43 seconds remaining in the third quarter. It's always nice when the guy who is really responsible for getting it down to the goal line is also the one who gets credit for the touchdown. Yeah, although don't forget Williams did have that 18-yard gain on third down, but the people who were really responsible was the offensive line. I don't know, maybe Lake Nona taking the lead lit got their mind back where it should be. Like we said, until this possession, it wasn't just the defense, but the offense looked confused. And this looked like the offense we saw during the first half, at least when they scored those touchdowns.
False start is called against the Mustangs offense. That's a 5-yard penalty and a replay of the try. Let's see, how long was his previous carry prior to the 3-yard touchdown?
You mean Bridges?
Yes.
He gained 2 yards. So, let's see. Williams had the 18-yard gain, which brought it to the 27, and then Bridges had the 22-yard gain, which put it inside the 10, and then, of course, he ran it the last 2 times.
Salazar's extra point is up and good. And so again, with 46 seconds remaining in the third quarter, the Mustangs retake the lead and are now up by 5. The score 33-28 as we are in the final minute of the third quarter.
So that was a 7-minute play there, Mark. Obviously the longest of this quarter. And again, hopefully this will spark the defense. Of course, in high school football, momentum is so important. You get one unit that comes out and makes a few plays. It gets the fans excited and into the game, and it's not unusual to see the other side come out and do the same.
And as you mentioned at the end of the previous drive, it's the quarterback, Brandon Williams, and then your running back, Berthel Bridges, are the ones who get their names read over the microphone all the time. But really, you've got to give the credit for that score to the Mustangs offensive line, who created some open lanes for both Williams and Bridges on their running plays that we haven't seen open up a lot for Wekiva tonight. And that was really what enabled them to just cut it like butter into the end zone and retake the lead here. They're now up by 5, with just a few seconds remaining in the third quarter. The Lions will take over at their own 20-yard line with 1st and 10.
Yeah, and of course, Mark, being a former running back myself, and again, I realize it wasn't past the high school level, but in this case it's the same regardless of the level. I always pay attention to these offensive linemen. Again, like you said, the running backs, the quarterback get all the glory in the headlines, but nothing can be done without the offensive line playing well.
The pass is complete to Darian Betts, who has the first down. One matchup with Tyler Shepard, and finally took Arian Lowe to take him down, as Shepard zigged when he should have zagged. Now we have a Mustang slow to get up here at the end of that play. It's going to be a first down regardless at the 40-yard, on their own 40-yard line. So that I mentioned that was Lowe that ultimately had the tackle, and frankly may have saved a touchdown there, because I don't know that there was anybody else that was going to stop Darian Betts if it weren't Lowe.
Yeah, and again, that wasn't like a 60-yard bomb down the sideline, which requires a certain amount of air and touch. That was a simple in and out. Betts just turned around and the ball was in his hands about 5 yards before he was tackled, and as you just said, there was nobody but Lowe behind him.
And so the Lions, as we've been saying all game, with an unusual approach to their offense. It's something that you don't see a whole lot of in high school, that you see teams taking to the air quite that often. It's rare to find that much discipline in a quarterback that you can rely on that to happen that often and not risk a lot of interceptions and zero gain plays. And that will take us to the end of the third quarter. At the end of 36 minutes, the Mustangs back in the lead, 33-28 in a close ball game, as the Mustangs prepare to enter the postseason. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the Mustangs are absolutely district champions, and they will play in the playoffs at home no matter what happens tonight. But a win tonight can give them much more preferable positioning in the first round of the playoffs next week. For those of you who are here in the stadium and depending on a ride to get home from tonight's game, we want to remind you, if you haven't already done so, to let your ride know that we are entering the final 12 minutes of play. And even though you can't see that 12 minutes counting down on the clock, you know it's there. And we would appreciate your cooperation in helping us to get the campus cleared as quickly as possible after tonight's game. So please make sure your ride is here and ready to pick you up at the end of the game. The first play of the fourth quarter is a running play from Aracena once again, and he picks up a gain of what looks to be about 14 yards. And that is good for a Lion first down. Kavion Holmes made the tackle for the Mustangs.
And that is the first rushing play of the game that Lake Nona has really gained any significant yardage, which does kind of get me worried because up to this point they've at least only had to worry about one dimension, that being the pass.
Well, they'll try it again. This time not so successful. No gain brings up 2nd and 10. Here's that route that we've seen so many times before. Pass is complete from Michael Kern to Darian Betts. That's good for a gain of 7, perhaps 8 yards. 2nd and a long 2 coming up for the Lions. And as you said earlier, Neil, there's nothing particularly spectacular about that play. It's just consistent. And that's something you don't see a lot of in high school football. Here's another run to Aracena. And Aracena picks up the first down, running for about 3 yards. That gets the ball just inside the 35-yard line to the 34. 1st and 10, Lions.
And there's where you see the importance of Lake Nona running the passing game the way they do. You only had a 3-yard gain, yet now you got a first down, and Wekiva is going to have to worry about getting more worn down with another set of downs.
Kern completes again to Darian Betts, and that one's good for a gain of 5 yards, 2nd and 5. And again, the Lions with almost an instant replay of what we saw 2 plays ago, and almost for the same number of yards. It actually gets spotted closer to 6 yards on the play. It's just so consistent that they can run that, and here we go again with the Aracena run. Aracena carries for a gain of 2 yards on the play. That'll bring up 3rd and 2 for the Lions. So other than the fact that each of those plays was about a yard shorter than it was the last time, this down series is turning out exactly identical to the previous one. It's almost like you see so many high school teams that their go-to play is, well, run it up the middle. And this time their go-to play is to run an outside route with Kern throwing to usually Betts, occasionally Quealy. This pass falls incomplete, and it brings up 4th and 2 for the Lions. And so now an interesting conundrum for Lake Nona.
Yeah, and also the pass, it's the same pass. Not only are they going to the same area, but it's in and out. Receiver runs down, and when he turns it around, the pass is already in the air.
Lions will try to convert, have an open receiver. Did it touch the grass first? Waiting for a signal.
It was incomplete. The defense is coming off, so.
So Wekiva comes up with a big stop just when they need it. This is the defense that we like to see and that we have seen.
And now that also affects Lake Nona, too. That was a 9-play drive which started at their own 20. So now you got to think that, that's going to affect them psychologically as well, to put in all that work and not come up with any points.
Bethel Bridges opens up the drive for the Mustangs, a gain of 1, 2nd and 9.
And of course, now that we're in the fourth quarter and we got a close game, a 1-touchdown game, you have to also remember that the physical element of the game, too, is going to come into play. And you have to take advantage of every opportunity because of that physical play, as well as just, looking at the scoreboard.
Pass intended for Terrence Moore falls incomplete. 3rd and 9 coming up for the Mustangs. So, Neil, at this point, obviously a first down is what you really want, but if you don't get the first down, you really desperately need an outstanding punt here to put a lot of field in front of the Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's what we saw last time.
Gets only a couple of yards out of the play. It brings up 4th and 6 as he did not get the block that he wanted from his offensive line. And so the Mustangs are going to punt away.
In that particular situation, I also wonder how much Wekiva's lackluster play this half had to do with calling a rush there instead of a pass. As far as Williams has made several bad decisions this game, which he wasn't in the previous.
Jarvis Ware on the punt, and he is clearly frustrated as that was a low punt that did not get as much distance as he wanted, nor as much hang time. Fortunately, it also took a trajectory that was difficult for the Lions to read, and so they weren't able to really do much with it, even though it had very minimal hang time.
Still, in the end, 37-yard line is fairly decent field goal position.
Aracena on the carry. Eight minutes, 15 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter. No gain on the play, 2nd and 10.
And now we got another pass here. Lake Nona goes back.
The pass is intended for number 5, Ethan Johnson. It falls incomplete as he slipped on the turf there and was not able to get back on his route to be there. And so that'll be now 3rd and 10 coming up for the Lions. If the Mustangs can get a 3 and out here, that could be very useful for them as we head toward the final 6 minutes of the ball game.
Yeah, absolutely there. As Lake Nona takes the snap, and they're again going to go to another screen.
Curran screens to Aracena. That's good for a gain of 8 yards. It brings up 4th and 2 for the Lions. So now an interesting position. They went for the 4th down conversion the last time they were in this situation. They were also a lot farther down the field. Mustangs could be dangerous if they take over on downs from here.
Well, I think in this situation, of course, if I was the coach, I would go ahead and punt the ball with still 8.5 minutes left. However, again, I'm up here in the press box and I'm not down on the field. And Lake Nona is going for the first down with the one-back set like they've been lining up all day. We got 3 wide receivers on the right and 1 on the left, and a penalty as well.
Yeah, this is exactly what they were hoping for.
Yeah.
Flag on the play, offsides called against the Mustang defense. That's a 5-yard penalty, and it's enough for a first down. That was Jarvis Hanks that was guilty on that one. He knew it the moment he took off. And that's exactly what they were hoping for. So they don't have to convert the 4th down. They get it for free. Aracena on the carry. Minimal gain on the play. 2nd and 10 coming up for Lake Nona. Have we seen anybody other than Aracena run tonight?
Well, there are 2 other. Well, first of all, Kern does get credit for rushing the ball because he was sacked twice. And there's also been 2 passes.
7 minutes remaining. 7 minutes left in the ball game.
There's been 2 passes to number 7, Anthony Manning, which were actually, he was tackled. The ball was caught behind the line of scrimmage, and he was thus tackled, so those do count as rushes as well. But as far as directly handing the ball off, yes, Aracena is the only player who has gotten the ball in that manner.
Kern with a low route pointed in the direction of Ethan Johnson. It is low and falls incomplete. 3rd and 10.
And by the way, that was the 40th pass of the game by Kern. So, in high school football, 20 passes is considered a lot. Kern has doubled that amount.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the last couple of times they've thrown to Johnson, he has just misread the route. And so the ball did not land where he was. This one, though, they will go to the right side and try to find number 4, Anthony Quilly. The pass is complete near the first down marker. But it is a gain of 9 on the play. And that'll bring up 4th and 1. And this is kind of a no-brainer here. They're going to go for this 4th down conversion.
Obviously.
Alicena on the carry. Mustang defensive line makes the stop, and it'll be over on downs to Wekiva. 6 minutes, 24 seconds are remaining in the 4th quarter, and that is close enough to the midpoint that we will call it the midpoint of the 4th quarter. It is time for a water break on our official timeout. Again, 6 minutes, 24 seconds remaining in the ball game. The Mustangs holding on to a 33-28 lead, and the ball on the 42-yard line, 1st and 10.
So on that last play there, Alicena did not gain anything. Quite frankly, that was a play up the middle. And I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again. In this particular case, I have no problem with it because it benefited Wekiva. But I really don't understand why on 4th and 1 you try to run the ball up the middle, and especially against a Wekiva defense. That front line, if all else fails, Wekiva's defensive line can hang their hat on that front 3 and being able to control that middle. Again, Mark, I've watched lots of football, and I played high school football, and I just don't understand why coaches call for the play up the middle in that situation.
Williams gets around the outside corner, has some daylight in front of him, is finally taken out of bounds by Anthony Manning. But not before getting the game. First down.
Who ran that?
We have a Mustang that's slow to get up here. It was a 24-yard carry for Brandon Williams. And then Anthony Manning finally made the stop. Manning is a name that you might have heard us mention a couple of times before because he is both a wide receiver and a defensive back and appears to be excelling at both of those positions. Meanwhile, Mustangs are up here, and that is number 42, Stephen Pierre, shaken up on the play. He makes his way off with the assistance of our athletic training team. A 24-yard carry for Brandon Williams on the previous play, and that gets the ball to the 34-yard line, 1st and 10, Wekiva.
And that, again, was an offensive line making that play happen. They pushed the Nona defensive line back to the left side as Williams ran to the right, sealed it off. Again, great work by the offensive line. And just to follow up what you were saying there, Mark, Manning pretty much saved a touchdown there, even though he was not alone for the tackle. He slowed up Williams enough for his buddies to join in.
Berthel Bridges picks rushing for him tonight, so that's not entirely surprising. He started out as a rushing quarterback, and he still continues to excel at that, although his passing game has largely caught up to his rushing game here in the second half of the season. So based on the spot, we're going to give Bridges another yard there. That turns out to be a 3-yard run for him. 2nd and 7 now for the Mustangs. Williams takes the direct snap, fakes the handoff to Bridges, and he gets down inside the 15-yard line. Brandon Williams faking the handoff to Berthel Bridges. He is spotted at the 8-yard line of Lion territory.
It's a 23-yard gain.
A 23-yard gain for the Mustangs on that running play, and it's 1st and 10 from the 13.
Yeah, and again, Williams has really come into his own as a passing quarterback, but I think his biggest value is what we've just seen on the last two plays. When Wekiva absolutely needs to get some rushing yards, he adds that extra dimension. You can't key on Bridges or Edgerton.
And we'll pause for a timeout. The Mustangs call timeout. 5 minutes, exactly 5 minutes remaining in the ball game.
So, and again, the offensive line is doing a great job. They came out at the beginning of the second half and did not look well at all. They looked very confused, lackluster. But now in the fourth quarter, it's almost as if they were looking. Somebody told them, "You guys need to up your game," and they are certainly taking it to heart. Williams going over 100 yards, very much like Lake Nona's concept of how to pass the ball. Williams hasn't really done anything fancy either. He's gotten about three carries of over 20 yards, which is, that's about 70 yards in its own. But it's also given Wekiva the extra set of downs, and thus the clock continues to run.
Yeah, and if the Mustangs make this a two-score game here, I mean, obviously with what we've seen so far tonight, you don't ever write off anything as being a foregone conclusion. But it certainly gives the Lions an uphill battle for the rest of the game if they trail by 2 scores with less than 5 minutes remaining. This one's going to go up the middle for Wekiva, and that is, looks like Williams might have kept that.
Yeah, I believe that was Williams. I don't see Bridges or Edgerton out on the field. So.
Brandon Williams picks up 5, making it 2nd and 5 from the 8-yard line.
So, and again, that's where you want to run a play, rush the ball up the middle while you're trying to kill the clock, and you're deep in the other team's territory, and you have a chance to increase your lead. I'm not so sure, going back to Lake Nona's call on 4th and 1, why you do it there.
Brandon Williams again takes the QB keep and goes up the middle. This time it's good for a gain of 2 yards. 3rd and 3 coming up for the Mustangs from the 5-yard line. 3 minutes, 58 seconds remaining. So the Mustangs clearly engaged in clock management here as they go up the middle on a conservative play for 2 plays in a row, hoping maybe to catch a lucky break.